Thank you, Anupama ji. It's a pleasure to be in this conversation with you. And I'm very, very, very grateful that you've given your time to help leaders understand how an artist thinks and what we can, as leaders, understand from an artist and from the mind of an artist, especially. Very grateful for your time, ma'am.
Thank you. It's my pleasure. Absolutely.
Yes, wonderful, wonderful. So just the very beginning, I want to understand, I mean, one is as an individual, you would have learned the art form. You would have started at a very young age, like most of us get initiated in it. And then you evolved. And then, of course, you also go through our schooling and your regular college and things like that. And somewhere you would have figured out that art actually molded you and your leadership. Was there an instance or something that you can recall, which you can start by sharing with us, ma'am?
Well, I can't recall any particular incident.
Okay.
So for me, it's a little, the journey is a little maybe more predictable, because after I did my schooling, I did the rest of my education also in the field of dance.
Okay.
I did my bachelor's in dance, I did my master's in dance, and then I did my PhD in dance only.
Okay.
So the last time I was in a mainstream academic field, was when I was doing my +2, or when I was doing what is called intermediate year.
Correct.
Where I was doing history, literature, and civics.
Correct.
But as far as one thing which I think is, which I do note and which I find very, now when I think back, actually in retrospect, correct, when I think back,
correct,
the fact that from a very young age, I was working with dance and music and putting up productions, either in school or in college. It automatically gave me a quality of a leader.
Okay.
Because you are working with multiple components.
Correct.
First of all, you're working with literature, you're working with music, you're working with movement, you're working with different kinds of people who are trained and not trained.
Correct.
See, if it's not a dance school, it's a general, college where different kinds of people are studying. And when you take an initiative to have a cultural event where you're doing some work with music and dance, correct, you're forced to work with people who are, some may be trained, some may be completely untrained.
Correct.
And then you have to figure out a methodology by which you can make them all kind of speak the same language, do the same thing. Correct. So this is an automatic, way in which you are already inculcating some little quality of leadership.
Correct.
Because you, at the helm of the whole thing, are trying to create something which brings harmony.
Correct.
In a situation where everything is not conducive to you.
Correct. Correct. Correct.
So that was one thing I definitely noticed, because from a very young age, from the time I was 15, 16, I was, interested in taking original pieces of literature. We used to have a recording studio just behind the college.
Okay.
So we used to go and, call some friends, one person who plays a flute, one who plays a tabla. We used to record the original music.
Wow.
We wouldn't borrow music from anywhere. So we used to create our own music and then do these little things. We used to do little productions, like take one poem of Sarojini Naidu or one Rabindranath and then work with it, from college days itself. So this definitely created a kind of a, automatic, I won't say, it's not a conscious effort to be a leader.
Correct.
But it's just a subconscious, need.
Correct.
Because, you have to get things out there, and, you have to coordinate so many things to be able to do that.
Correct.
So I cannot recall a particular incident, but now when I look back, in retrospect, I feel that, this may have started the whole process of trying to, create something at the forefront of which we are.
Correct. Correct.
So that's what a leader does, right? He tries to create something to which he's at the forefront, and he's taking people along with him.
Correct.
So
correct.
This is the kind of thing that may have happened.
I know.
At that point.
There's also one thing that you said, of course, it led you to be more creative with things that
Yes.
you had, and how did you put things together. Sometimes we think that creativity is what an artist always lives and thrives in.
Yes.
But then sometimes we also understand artists also, creativity is at a moment, or it's a spur of a moment.
Yes.
And then you'll have to use your logic, you'll have to use all your planning
Yes.
skills, etc., to bring that creativity into life, even in
Oh,
the
yes.
concepts that you do, or in the productions that you do. Now, how does an artist balance this creative spirit and the instinct that they have with the logic and reason that they need to bring to kind of give some presentation to the audiences? How do you balance this, Anupama ji?
So, see, what I've always felt was that, see, if you look at the root of the word abhinaya,
Correct.
what we are doing,
Correct.
the root itself means to lead.
Hmm.
Because the word abhi and naya, when you say abhi, it is face to face.
Okay.
So, like in Telugu, we say abhimukham, that is when you face somebody.
Correct.
Naya, the root means to lead.
Okay.
So when you say abhinaya, we are saying that you are coming face to face with somebody and you are leading them where you want them to go.
Correct.
That is the meaning of the word abhinaya.
Beautiful.
And that is why the root naya is only used for nayaka, naya. Anything to do with naya is leadership.
Correct.
When you say nayaka or when you say nayika, it all stems from the word root naya, which
Yes.
means to lead.
Correct.
So somewhere ingrained within the art of abhinaya itself is the idea of leadership.
Mm.
That is, you are leading somebody to believe your reality. You are leading somebody to understand things the way you are perceiving it.
Correct. Correct.
This is all leading.
Correct.
And you are, what are you doing with this? Then where does logic come? The logic comes in the translation from the thought to the visual.
Correct. Mm.
That is where the logic will primarily come.
Correct.
That is, I may be a trained dancer. My audience may not be trained. They may be interested in it, but they may not be trained. So how do I bridge that gap of understanding?
Beautiful. Yes.
Because the audience will not know this is pataka, this is tripataka. Tripataka means king. They will not know this.
Correct.
Now that is where the logic comes in.
Yes.
As to how do I create an image? How do I create a motif? How do I create a metaphor, an analogy, or a paradox which goes there, which goes across?
Correct.
So that is basically what you're doing when what you're doing is you're leading them.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes. I mean, I'd never thought of it that way at all. I mean, and now that when you're phrasing it, it makes a lot of sense. Makes a lot of sense. Beautiful.
So I think as you said, the art and the logic, the art is what you're perceiving,
Correct.
what you're trying to create with the content and the
Mm.
context of what you have.
Correct.
The logic is in the transference.
Correct.
How do you transfer it in such a way that at least 75% people watching you can comprehend what you're doing and then enjoy what you're doing?
Absolutely, yes. And that's where I'm kind of reminded today in leadership, there's people are, striving to build a personality, or they call it in leadership parlance, they call it executive presence.
Right.
But for a dancer, that presence of the dancer or the any artist is what carries the audience through the narrative and everything. And there are a lot of people, I mean, I think the world is filled with beautiful dancers, but some of them stand out, and especially a person like you stand out when it comes to a presence perspective. How does that aspect come out from you, Anupamaji? How do you showcase your presence in front of the audience? And as you said, look, my creativity can be anything, but I'll have to carry that audience through through concepts in which they will understand what I have creatively perceived. And now your presence in that entire thing makes a big difference. And leaders are always striving, because many leaders could be introverted, they may not be visible outside.
Correct.
But then there are a whole lot of people who are visible, but they may not be the best leaders sometimes.
Exactly.
Yeah,
I agree. Yes.
so how should a leader understand the word presence from a dancer like you? That's the whole idea I want to understand.
Okay. So the way I see it, I don't know. I mean, it's a very subjective kind of a thing. I cannot give an objective view, because different things will be relevant and applicable to different types of people.
Correct.
But I think the first thing, when we say the word presence,
yes,
I think there are 3-4 components which actually create that presence. I think the first thing that creates the presence is complete understanding of your subject.
Yes.
I think that is very, very essential, because if you are not very sure of what you are talking about, or you are not very sure of, or you have not studied your subject in depth.
Correct.
And you have only skimmed the surface, or you have just pretended to study on things on the periphery.
Correct.
That gives you, it's what you get out of it is not confidence, it's only bravado. You get a false confidence.
Absolutely.
Out of that.
Yes.
So I think the first thing that we require for presence is to have to take the effort, make the effort to study your subject.
Correct.
Well enough that you are equipped with the answers to any question that may arise.
Correct. Correct.
So I think knowledge is the first step towards presence.
Yes.
Then the second step I feel is clarity.
Correct.
Ability to, translate that knowledge, what you know,
Correct.
in such a way that people are actually understanding it.
Correct.
Now,
Correct.
for that, you have to understand it first.
Correct.
So there has to be clarity.
Yes.
And then I think another thing that many people don't really understand, and maybe will not agree with me also,
Correct.
is when you communicate, you should talk to people. Don't talk down to people.
Correct.
You must talk with them.
Correct.
You see, having a lot of knowledge or being somebody doesn't give you the right to be patronizing.
Yes.
That is the worst aspect that a leader can have.
Yes. Correct.
Because it will not inspire anybody to follow you.
Correct.
But it will put their defenses up.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
So I think 1 is knowledge, 2 is clarity, and 3rd is the attitude with which you put your communication across.
Correct.
That the attitude should be one of, I want to share this with you. You may agree, you may not agree with me, but I think it is right. Conviction is also important.
Correct.
You must think it is right.
Yes.
But you must put it across in such a way that it doesn't appear condescending.
Correct.
Or
Correct.
patronizing in any way.
Correct.
That automatically inspires following.
Yes.
Automatically inspires.
Correct.
I think a lot of it is in the attitude.
Correct.
A combination of these 3 things that creates presence.
Correct. Correct.
And I'm not saying this only about speakers. I'm saying this about dancers also. In performance, it is how you put your idea across.
Yes.
Are you putting it across as to say, I'm offering this idea to you, I think I want you to understand it? Or are you saying, look how great a dancer I am and look how I'm dancing?
Correct.
I think the difference comes there.
Absolutely. Absolutely. What would you advise from your vantage point? There's a whole host of of course, a lot of young dancers, and they're also invariably going to become young leaders of the future. So how should they look at this blend of the art forms that they pursue with how they, contribute to organizations or society? There'll always be a connect between all of us into different ecosystems. What would be your advice as to how they should develop and nurture themselves forward, Anupama ji?
I don't know if I'm equipped to give advice, but yeah, I think, see, when I think of this, I think actually I'm not in agreement with many, very senior people who say, we were very good, the younger dancers are not good, they are very selfish, they are this, they are that, or whatever. I'm somehow not in agreement with this, because I think there is a lot more competition out there today.
Yes.
There's a lot more struggle, because you are one amongst a heap of people.
Yes.
Who are all striving to try to prove themselves.
Yes.
So in that context, when you look at what the young people need to do, is I think two things. This is something I told somebody once before. You have to decide very early in your career what kind of a niche you want to occupy. Like, you want to be an out and out performer, like dancing 20 programs in a month, or at that issue, that's what you want to do, then you have to put in what is required to do that.
Correct.
No moral judgment. If you have to step on toes and you have to go up, do it, if that's where you want to be, because there's no other way you'll go there. But if you think by nature you are not the kind of person who can do that, then decide again very early in life that I will go in a direction which is not where I don't have to struggle too much in the mainstream.
Correct.
Here again, it is a clarity of decision.
Correct.
And see, if you want to be an academic, you want to study the dance form, you want to do it, do that. But don't then look at all the performers who are dancing 20 days a month and then feel regretful that I'm not doing that.
Correct. Yes.
So I think first what the younger dancers need to do is decide what you want to be.
Yes. Yes.
And once you make that decision, then you work towards that.
Correct.
Okay,
Correct.
I want to be a performing scholar. I want to be a scholar and a performer. Yes, that is a almost empty niche. There are very few in that particular space.
Correct.
Where you're a dancer scholar.
Yes. Yes.
So you want to occupy that, but it is a lot of hard work.
Yes.
Because to gain scholarship, you have to study a lot, and you should be the type who is willing to do that.
Correct.
So I don't have advice, but I think the only suggestion I would make is decide very early where you want to go, because it's a rat race. There are so many people struggling to get to so many points. You decide what you want to do, and that clarity will give you the impetus to move in that direction.
Correct. Correct.
You have to decide what you want to be.
Correct.
Or more importantly, what you don't want to be.
Yes. Yes.
That also you have to decide.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, while you were speaking, two things come to mind. I thought I should ask you. One is saying you spoke about rasas. And, in dance, we're always about the 9 different rasas in just the traditional way. And there are so many more other rasas that you can add. And now, how should leaders imbibe these rasas? Because sometimes we become a product of few as we move into, when you're young, you showcase a lot more emotions. But as you grow older, you become a product of few emotions. Now, how should anything that you have is thinking to say, how do you keep this, the inner agility or that youthfulness inside you to say, hey, I can try multiple things. I can explore. I'm willing to experiment different emotions with people that I work with. How can dance teach something of that to leaders, Anupama ji?
Working with multiple emotions on different levels. For that, first of all, I may sound very ridiculous if I say this, but I think the whole idea stems from, first of all, not taking yourself very seriously.
Correct.
I think that is very important, because not taking your position as boss or position as leader very seriously.
Correct.
Getting the work done.
Yes.
But being willing to give that, stretch the relationships, stretch it, have the empathy.
Correct. Correct.
And the ability to laugh at yourself, laugh with people, to be able to be compassionate when something is not going as per your plan.
Correct. Correct. Correct.
So these are all rasas. I mean, these are
Yes.
all bhavas, kind of
Yes.
karuna, hasya. These are all different kinds of bhavas.
Correct.
So at the end of the day, I think it's very important whether you're a leader or whether you're just simply a human being,
Correct.
for us to understand that, hey, yeah, we have all come onto this earth to do different things.
Correct.
We'll do it to the best of our ability, but world won't come to an end.
Yes.
We try our best to do things, but let's not get into a knot about, let's not get into knots about doing everything perfectly. Yeah, it is expected. That's what your aim is.
Yes.
But if you want to dabble with different emotions and different kinds of relationships with people who are under you or above you or whatever,
Correct.
I think it's more a question of letting it flow.
Correct.
A
Correct.
more easy, let things flow, let them happen.
Correct. Correct.
Try to let go of the idea of control.
Correct. Correct. Correct.
I
Now, one thought, sorry to interrupt here,
No.
but one thought that came is, look, as a dancer or a person who's worked and put together a number of productions or anything, you would have picked up, say, oh, this person would fit this role very well. And then you will see, you try a particular person to do this emotion, they may not do it, and then you change something to ensure that it fits them. Now, there's a bit of fluidity with which artists work in, because you know whom to pick up for a particular role. There's a certain eye that you have to say, hey, this is a physique that they have, it will fit into this role well.
Correct.
Somewhere, some things you might have learned, I don't know, intuitively or through experience and practice. Can you share some things that helps you to identify talent? And then how do you fluidly, help them to perform that role better? Because sometimes in life also we may want to do something, but we may not. We can put our best efforts, but at most we can become mediocre at it. We can't become excellent. But in order to bring a performance, you don't want to say, oh, this student, I'll completely take her out. I will want her to be part of it, and then create something to help them also shine. So that is what would be the mark of a great teacher for all the students. Now, how do you balance these various dimensions, and what is your experience in this, Anupama ji?
Yeah, so I think again it is a matter of being very perceptive. Being able to look. See, we meet so many people, in the course of our work, or we meet so many people in the course of our life, basically.
Correct.
So, what Abhinava Gupta actually calls is chitta vritti. He uses that word. He says, it is an ability as we are growing older. It's an ability to be able to look beyond the veneer that is being presented to us by a certain person. And in fact, that is what the teacher is supposed to do when she sees multiple students in front of her, is that you look beyond the persona that the person is putting in front of you and try to understand the chitta vritti or the basic temperament of the child, or the, if not the child, at least the student. So over a period of time, when we develop this ability to be able to discern, what kind of person, because some people are they may be very brash on the outside, but actually they're very sensitive. Some people will be extremely sweet, extremely nice, but that they have a cold core. So there are all kinds of people. I mean, and we are not judging them, but I'm saying there are all kinds of people make the world. So I think somewhere that discernment to be able to say, okay, I think this person is perfect for this, because in spite of the veneer that they are presenting, I think this is what they can do best. So to be able to identify them like that, I think is important. And I'm not I used to, but now I don't do very big group productions, but I used to do some big group productions before. But now it's a very small presentations. I do very small with limited 5 dancers, 4 dancers. but I'm very careful to see that, I am stretching the ability that is already inherent inside the person.
Correct.
And I'm not trying to impose on them an ability which they don't have.
Correct. Correct.
So I think both of them are equally important.
Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. I mean, now I have personally, as a dancer, let's say, I mean, during some of Dhananjay and Master's productions, we would have, given our Saturdays, Sundays, anytime, we would just be there in the dance class and do many things. And the same thing, if I look at today inside the organization, if leaders are always worried, oh my God, if I ask somebody to work, stretch for something over the weekend, then am I stepping across their boundaries?
Yeah.
But artists are able to, if very naturally, they're able to. I've seen Master, I've seen even Akka, and anywhere we've performed, we would give our whole selves, no thoughts,
Yes.
and we'd be there throughout, just working on it. I mean, after college, we would go there, Saturdays, Sundays, as I said. But now there is a whole lot of dabbling. Oh my God, am I respecting people's boundaries? Will they give their best? There's this whole conundrum of confusion. And then with that, mental health issues, a
Yes,
lot of
yes.
things we keep reading and actually experiencing there.
True.
What is your thoughts on this side? There is a lot of possibilities, and this side, the other world is facing a lot of difficulties. So how can each world, or this world, which is all about art and dance, vision, passion, kind of give a message or something to the world of, work, corporate life, and all of that, Anupama ji?
A lot of people who decide to spend a lifetime in art
Correct.
are doing it because they're absolutely crazy. They're crazy about that. They know, see, when you do something against all odds,
Correct.
then that means you absolutely love it.
Yes.
You don't know how to do anything else.
Yes.
You know how only to do that.
Yes.
And therefore, you will give everything to it.
Yes.
Because that's all you can, that's all you can think of.
Absolutely, yes.
But in this context, what I think is, to a great extent, many people, there may be a few who are doing it for passion, but most people are doing it for a living.
Yes, yes.
Okay, and they may not be very passionate about it, but they want to finish what they have to do well enough so that they get paid at the end of the month.
Correct.
And they're able to sustain themselves and their families comfortably.
Yes, yes.
So that whatever is that crazy immersion or that passion content, that is bound to be missing in some cases here.
Yes, yes.
And we cannot blame them for it, because the entire idea is not designed for passion.
Yeah.
It is designed for productivity.
Yes, 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 yes.
So it is very difficult to recreate this over here, except in a very niche group. Like only the pioneers, people who think and conceive of the ideas, will be very passionate about it.
Correct, correct, correct.
In many places, even in science, the same thing.
Yes, yes.
Those who have created the concept, those who have, created the blueprint of the idea,
yes,
pioneering minds will be the ones who are passionate about it.
Correct, correct.
Because they did it out of the same artistic passion
correct.
that the artist works.
I think, yeah, the frequency with which an artist
frequency with which they work, this will be here.
Yes.
In the context of the people who are actually creating the idea.
Correct.
But
Correct.
all the people who are following it will not be equally passionate.
Absolutely, absolutely. Natya Shastra or dance is all a very ancient wisdom. And I mean, people have had some tenets on which it has been built. And of course, you see a lot of experimentation on top of the fundamentals.
Yes.
That is what in today's world we say innovation is the word. Anything. Now, what is your personal take on saying, look, that there are some people who are very strict on say, I will follow the fundamentals, I will not, break them. But then there are some people I remember it took me so many years to even finish a Varnam. But I see people 7 years now finishing a Varnam and saying, I have an Arangetram, whereas I might have done 16 years before I did an Arangetram.
Yeah.
So, what is your take on this innovation and lot of things happening in your space, and outside world is looking at innovation differently? Now, how should fundamentals remain strong, and how should innovation really take place in your space, and then connect it to the what others can learn from what's happening with dance?
So, firstly, I think, as you said, rightly said, fundamentals have to be strong.
Yes.
See, we have to see that. See, it's like building a fancy building on some foundation that is weak.
Yes.
So innovation will be like a fancy, kind of a building you're building without the building blocks being strong.
Correct.
But I think once the building blocks are strong, whatever you do will have a depth to it.
Yes. Yes.
Even if you're doing a traditional Varnam, or you're going out of the traditional box and doing something a little more creative or innovative, where you're bringing in other formats of music or literature or whatever you're working with.
Correct.
Or simply you're bringing a plethora of movement methodologies.
Correct.
Whatever you're doing, again, I come back, like a parrot, I keep harping on the same thing, is knowing your subject.
Correct.
Many a time the innovation doesn't work, or the new experiment doesn't work because of half-baked knowledge.
Yes. Correct.
Having half-baked knowledge either of one format or the other that you're working with won't help.
Yes. Correct.
You have to know the original context of your art. That is, what are the basic fundamental units
Yes.
upon which the art form actually is laid.
Correct.
That you have to know for sure.
Correct.
Then whatever you create out of that will be just enhancing what you already have.
Correct.
But it will not be taking away from it.
Yes.
And
yes.
then when you innovate, you have to understand some basic principles of your type of art form. See, like, for example, let me give you a very small example. I was watching no names, but I was just watching some contemporary, Indian contemporary thing.
Yes.
And while it was nice, I didn't connect to something. So they had thrown it open for a question answer session. And so I just asked a question. I said, but this section or that section, I didn't really understand it. So what were you doing? So the person says to me, we Indians, we have a big problem with wanting to understand everything. We want to understand everything. Why can't we enjoy something without understanding it?
Okay.
This is something that the person put to me.
Yes.
So I thought about it seriously. And what I understood was the whole edifice of Indian art, the whole edifice of the idea of rasa, that rasa nishpatti, or that universal feeling of rasa should happen in the audience. The whole thing hangs on the idea of understanding.
Correct.
See, because if you do not understand what is happening, it is very difficult to experience it in totality.
Yes.
You can only experience it in parts.
Yeah.
You can say, okay, the body language was very nice, or the music of this was very nice, or the costume for this was very nice. But the total immersive experience that they're trying to give you, that is very difficult to understand, because the whole difference between Western aesthetics and Indian aesthetics is that in Western aesthetics, you are invited to be a viewer. In Indian Alankara, you are invited to be a participant.
Yes.
That is that is why you have to understand.
Correct.
So if you are in innovation or in tradition,
Yes.
if you are creating a premise by which whatever you're trying to convey is understood,
Yes.
then it's done. I have no problem with what you're doing.
Correct.
I
Correct.
don't have an issue with what you're creating, what you're innovating. I've never been a stickler for anything anyway. I never danced the pieces I learned traditionally. I've always created my own pieces. I've dabbled with languages, multiple languages.
Correct.
So I have never stuck to anything, any certain format or module of dancing. Actually, now I don't even call my dance a form. I'm not even calling it Kuchipudi, Vilasinatyam or anything.
Correct.
I'm just saying I'm doing Abhinaya. And I basically do whatever I want. But
Correct.
my only concern is with one thing.
Yes.
Is how is my idea being communicated and is it being enjoyed?
Enjoyed. Very well said.
And not just enjoyed. I mean, is it creating thought?
Yes. Yes.
That is also important for me.
Yes.
I'm not saying it should be important for everyone.
Correct. Correct.
For somebody else, it may just be enjoyed.
Yes.
Absolutely fine. Nothing wrong with that. They work towards that, I work towards this.
Correct. 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 Have people walked back with something that provoked them to, understand it, or taking an inspiration from you and doing something else from that, right?
Or even, even if not being inspired, even if not wanting to do anything with it, that when you saw me do something, did it just give you that moment of, oh, this is nice, this is really beautiful, or
Correct.
This is something, oh, I didn't think of it this way.
Correct. Correct. Correct.
Just that few moments of that, if I could create,
Correct.
I think my work is done.
Correct. Correct. Correct.
The rest, I don't care. I mean, you are doing whatever style you're doing, whatever you're doing, because one thing I know for sure, if your fundamental is not correct, you cannot create that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Automatically, it goes without saying that the fundamental has to be strong.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Very well said, Anupama ji. Thank you so much. And this has been very, very rich. I would say really, really grateful for this time.
Not at all. I enjoyed talking to you. It was lovely experience.